they'd be angels or gods most likely.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely dealing with. There's lost knowledge. We don't know everything that we used to. I mean, there is definitely some lost knowledge here. I mean, we're just still trying to figure out how the pyramid was built. We still don't know. I mean, you look at some of the stone construction in down in Peru is a good example because they say, oh, the Inca did this, and it's like, well, the Inca themselves said they didn't do it, and then the stones, the older work, the older construction is the stuff that's better. They use bigger rocks. The workmanship is way better. So I mean, so we're going backwards. I mean, shouldn't it be the other way around? I mean, as mankind progresses, shouldn't you get smarter, and shouldn't the work get better? So that's what you would think, but that's not what these places show us.
Yeah, well, it does show us one thing. Even back in the Roman times or the Egyptians' time, the cement they made, we can't duplicate it. Cement now, right. If you make a cement building, right, or you make a big cement block, a couple hundred years from now, it's not going to be there. It's going to, it's going to be gone. You're talking about what they created. It has not deteriorated.
You're talking about the aqueducts and
no, not the. I'm just talking about like the way they could come up with formulas to make cement for Eamon.
Well, you're talking about like the roads and the aqueducts and like stuff like that. The stuff they built, like the Romans.
Yeah, well,
the Greeks
even before
and the Egyptians,
and even before that, we can't duplicate it with all our technology. We can't come up with cement that'll last thousands of years.
When I was taught in school, this is the crazy thing how I was taught in school. When I opened up a history book, it would show a bunch of like Egyptians pulling like these 2-ton bricks up the pyramids. Like, how is that possible? There's no way they could have done that.
No,
that's what they taught us.
Well, you know what? They don't want.
They use pulleys and stuff like that, but there's no way.
Even pulleys. I'm going to be honest with you. Technology-wise, they had to be way superior than anything that we know today, because the technology. I mean, they couldn't have moved those big, huge blocks and got them out of the. How many miles?
Well, they had horses too.
Well, look, they would have had
the horses. No way.
But Kevin, they would have had to have dragged those huge multi-ton blocks. In the heat, in the desert, through the sand.
Egypt is
okay, but we're getting off the subject here. But I'm just saying, they had technology, undoubtedly, that we don't have. There's no way you could take 1,000 people, right, and move these big, huge blocks 30, 90 miles away to the quarry, to where they were building it. They couldn't have done it because the population wasn't that dense at that time. The die-off rate would be so high that it's impossible.
Well, they used slaves, and
they wouldn't be that many slaves left.
Well, they took slaves from everywhere.
Yeah, but they wouldn't still be enough. Think it out logical.
Did you know they took slaves literally they bought slaves from Europe. They bought slaves from
We're talking
different parts of Africa.
The Egyptian days.
Yeah, the Egyptian days, yes,
before
of course.
the Egyptians. There's a pyramid, Kevin, that it dates even...
It's called the Pyramid Scheme.
Yeah, well, it's really before the pyramids by, a long time. And they still haven't been able to account for that.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, again, we go back to giants, and we keep getting off of it, and I don't mean to. That's what I like about the show. It's paranormal. We can kind of go every which way. But, I really feel that it could have been a race. It came down on Earth, and, they kind of liked the Earth, and maybe they liked the Earth women. I don't know. And they kind of migrated on Earth, or maybe their spaceship crashed on Earth, and the giants formed because the technology. Let's just face it, we didn't have the technology then to do what was done.
No. I mean, that's like the Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki. same thing as like the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Enoch, only it's a different twist. And of course, like Zachariah Sitchin, his translation definitely says the Anunnaki, those from heaven who, those from heaven who fell. But they definitely, he painted them as they were aliens from Nibiru, the planet Nibiru, and they had to come to here because their atmosphere was getting weaker, so they needed gold, and so they came here, and they brought with them their own slaves, and then I think to get because they were mining gold. I'm sure you guys have heard this story, but and it parallels all these other stories. But I guess their slaves, there was some battle with them because they decided it was too hard to work. So the humans that were here, because when they came, supposedly there was just animals and very basic humans. So they engineered them, mixed DNA with them to make a slave that was smart but still would be would do what they say. I mean, the Sumerians, those stories. I mean, these are written like, God, this is like 6,000 years ago when these were written. And that's another thing. You talk about what they don't teach you in school. I mean, when I went to school, if we heard anything about Sumerians, it was like maybe one or two things at the most. Just like Tesla, I never heard about him until I was way out of school, and that man was he was way ahead of his time.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah. I think Kevin. Kevin has another thing he wants to say.
Okay.
No, well, it can wait a little bit.
No.
Okay. Well, what I was gonna say is when sorry, my phone. In the ancient times, if the aliens did come down, what if they stored some type of technology, and that technology was hidden away, and let's say in the future that technology was found. Let's say that technology was rockets and that rocket propulsion and jet propulsion and stuff like that. And
I don't think that if they were aliens that were back then, their technology wouldn't be rockets. I'm telling you,
of course not.
No.
But they left some part of technology for us to use, and at the time we did not know how to use the technology, so we only used certain parts of the technology that came from the aliens. And when the time came, then the jets and all that stuff came.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's totally possible. I mean, I really don't know. That's one thing I am so happy to say is I don't know.
Well, maybe we're better off, But I want to go back. I want to go back, like to Nazi Germany. Okay, in the I'd say around 37, 38, 39, when Goebbels and Hitler, were sending and dispatching scientists everywhere that they thought something paranormal was. And they were quite interested in giants. Again, some of the remarks that they made, the scientists made, they talked again about giants being 8, 10, 12 feet tall, red hair. And this red hair seems to be a pattern of all of them.
It does. Yeah. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm definitely going to have to research the Nazi thing with the Himalayas because I had not heard that before.
Oh yeah, that's where they found part of a skull, and I can't remember if it was a thigh bone or something else like that, and they sent it back to Germany. And that really enticed Hitler, to want to, and they were looking for anything paranormal.
Oh yeah, they were going all over the world. I think they were looking even for the Fountain of Youth. I think, weren't they? I mean, they were.
Oh yeah.
They were looking for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hate,
Indiana Jones, that was real.
yeah. Well, also Reagan was really into, and him and his wife Nancy were into the paranormal, really heavy.
Oh, were they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had everybody. Well, they had a special person that actually, they would plan some of their events on the stars and all that stuff. It was kind of eerie, but
I'll be damned.
yeah, it just makes you wonder. Again, like, would they actually come out and say at one point they were? Because I really would confuse a lot of things that has transpired with the Bible, because the Bible has been, and I'm going to have people yelling at me, but the Bible has been rewritten so many times. So some of the actual, I hate to say it, like if I write a book and then you read it and then you write the book again, and then your friend down the street rewrites the book again, eventually the whole gist of it is going to be totally changed pretty much.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it. I hate to say this, but I think, even the Bible is. I think it's been changed. I think it's been changed.
Man's been involved with it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think also the church and all that stuff at one point wanted to change it kind of their way too. To reflect their view.
Sure, but those stories still they did originate somewhere, but I totally agree with you. I mean, I think, and I'll probably get yelled at too, but I got, in fact, this was the friend of mine that pointed out the Genesis 6:4 in the Bible to me. When I finished my book, and so I wanted to put his name in the credits and everything. So he said, "Yeah, sure, that's great. Just as long as all you got to do is send me a copy." So I did, and they're pretty religious. I'm not going to say which religion it is, but when he read it, he said he's not going to read it. He liked it. He liked the story, but he didn't like the fact that I may have mentioned that, and I really didn't. That the Bible is incomplete or something. I really didn't do that. I just, like Genesis 6:4. I just embellished. I didn't embellish. No, I didn't take that back. I just looked into the Dead Sea Scrolls and got more out of it from that. And he, so he said he wouldn't read the sequel, but and that's fine. I know you're not going to make everybody happy, but because because it's based off of Genesis 6:4, which, I mean, that verse. Once you read that verse, it's like, wow, what does that mean? So, but yeah, does the Creator gives man free will. So if man has free will, does he not have free will to alter the Bible to how he wants to? I mean, maybe. I think when man's involved in something, they're going to tweak it to what suits their needs the best. I mean, that's
to me, religion should be based off what you think it is, but it should be good. You should not take religion and use it for something evil, but religion should be used for good, but it should be perceived from your own self.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah.
I will say this: religion has probably been one of the most cruelest things that ever happened. If you go back to where the UK is now, or France, you go around the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. I mean, how they used to torture people, in the name of God.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, religion has been very cruel.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's Edgar Cayce. He was a Christian. So when he started doing these readings and saying some of this bizarre stuff that didn't really go along with some of the things that you would think the Bible might be talking about, he was kind of torn about that. It's like, wow, because this is, like, he didn't know what he was saying when he was in that trance, but he could. Everything was. I think it was his wife eventually, the one that was writing everything down. But yeah, so I mean, somebody like him who was, and I think he said, but then again, he said, if you're going to believe in something, believe in a God and love thy neighbor. If you do that, you're okay. If you love it, and it's not easy to love thy neighbor, because, like, wow, my neighbor, he does this, he does that. I don't like this, I don't like that. It's like, treat everybody like you want to be treated, and basically that's what he's saying. You know, that's how I like to try to live.
If somebody's jumping off a bridge, don't follow that person that's jumping off the bridge. Basically,
yeah, that's a good way to put it, Kevin. But you know, I really think, you know, that even going back 100 or 200 or 300 years, I mean,